A couple people snuck in that I didn't actually get a chance to meet. Happy to talk afterwards. A couple quick housekeeping notes. We are not going to be watching video on the screen, but if you go to wammerman.com, wammerman.com, there's a video that introduces some of the fundamental concepts in the book. It's about a minute and a half long. It's useful, and you might actually want to look at it. The book is The Invisible Brand, which won the 2019 Marketing and Sales Book of the Year, among other awards, and it was a little ahead of the curve in terms of the buzz about artificial intelligence. So not as many people read it then as might read it if it came out today, but it is very, very timely in that all of the information in this book is still very relevant. I teach the Emerging Technologies course to graduate students and seniors over at UNC, and I use the book as a primary source for the course. Students love it. It's a very popular class. So I'm happy to answer questions about the book if anybody has questions about that afterwards. My plan is to speak for about an hour and then take as many questions as everybody has. So just set expectations. I think we're going to try to wrap at 6:30. Was that your goal? Okay. So as a warm-up exercise, I had recommended to everyone to visit the App Store, download ChatGPT, and use that particular one. Don't get suckered in by the fakes. This little black Gordian knot over a white background is what you're looking for, and it should say ChatGPT, the official app by OpenAI. And once you get that downloaded, then you can register and you can start asking questions. I recommend experimenting with these prompts. What is your working definition of AI? It's a good place to start. Ask it, what industries will be improved most by AI, or what industries might be disrupted most by AI? Ask it, how can AI improve education? And just get a sense for the depth of answers you get back. And if you're sitting next to someone, ask it the same question and note that it doesn't give you each the same answer. It isn't going to be verbatim, and we can talk about why that is. But the technology is highly popular, and we call it generative because it's a branch of AI that is generating content, whether it's text or images or music or voice or video. So we're going to dive right in. My goal today is to help you see this invisible influence that is already changing you and changing how you perceive the world around you. Many people have a belief that mistakenly artificial intelligence really only started to affect society with the launch of these generative AI products. But the reality was that back in 2013, I was running advertising for big ad groups, digital advertising, and we started using something called programmatic advertising. And programmatic advertising was designed to pre-position an auction of ad space on websites. And in real time, we could deliver an ad to an individual based on their behaviors, based on what they had done online. We could see if you had visited Go Ask Mom and you were registered as a woman and you checked the school closings, it was probably true, not necessarily, but probably true, that you were a mom of school-age children who had kids in the local school district. Now, you might have been a teacher, there might have been other reasons why you exhibited those behaviors, but from the advertiser's perspective, they were happy with good enough. They were happy with, it's probably a woman with school-age children in the local school district. And there's lots of things that an advertiser might want to sell that person. So they would pre-position ads in an auction to deliver them to that individual. Now, when I grew up, there was one television tower that delivered the same information to everyone at the same time. This technology started to allow us to deliver different information at a mass scale to different people at the same time. 3 people might come to the same website and get different content based on who they are. And as we got better at it, we started applying artificial intelligence to deliver information to you because of who you are and because of the signals in the data that we saw that might make you someone who might purchase our product, someone whose vote we might change, someone whose position on a social issue we might change. And that process of applying artificial intelligence to changing the way you get news and information has been going on ever since. So for 10 years, social attitudes, purchasing behavior, voting behavior has been manipulated by artificial intelligence. And the information that you think is true has been put there in front of you by artificial intelligence. And I'm going to illustrate that for you at a very deep level tonight. So I want to help you see something that's invisible and has already been operating in your life. The name, the invisible brand, is a reference to the fact that brands, of course, have been doing this for a long time, but brands can be governments, they can be political parties, they can be religions. There's a lot of different groups that have an interest in changing the way you view the world around you. And all of those groups are invisibly using artificial intelligence to change the way you think and behave. So we're going to try to see that tonight. I'm going to skip that because it had a video. But I want you to just use this as a broad model so that you can get some perspective about where generative AI, which has got all the buzz right now, fits into the larger AI space. So at the largest circle there, we think of that as artificial intelligence. And within artificial intelligence, and there's no scale here, that doesn't matter how big these circles are. But artificial intelligence, that's the big picture. Within artificial intelligence is machine learning. We're going to talk about that. And inside of machine learning is deep learning. And inside of that is generative AI. And applications of generative AI that you may have seen or encountered in the media, or maybe you're using it, generating text. That's the ChatGPT app that I asked you to play with. Generating images, Midjourney, DALL-E. There's a lot of these image generators out there. We're starting to generate video, animation, where you can take a photograph, upload it, and suddenly the photograph comes to life and animates. We can generate voices. I had a student who turned in a project narrated by a famous actor whose name is escaping me at the moment. But he added music and narration that was all generated by AI. You can generate computer code. We now have computers programming computers. And oh, by the way, yes, we have AI programming AI. So advances in AI are coming faster because AI is actually programming itself. That's not terrifying. We can generate 3D models. We can generate architectural drawings. We can generate engineering drawings. We can generate designs for machinery, equipment, using generative AI. So we're going to talk about how that works. I'm going to give you some simple definitions so you start to have a sense of what these words mean in case you're not familiar with the vocabulary. These are not necessarily academic definitions. These are definitions that I'm giving you to make this relevant, to make this easy to think about. So a simple definition of artificial intelligence: these are computer systems that complete tasks normally requiring human intelligence. Simple definition. So when you use a computer to do something that normally required human intelligence and the machine can do that relatively well, we think of that as artificial intelligence. When we think of machine learning, a simple definition of machine learning is a branch of AI that enables computers and computer systems to improve based on experience. When I was in high school, I took statistics, and we had a nice little XY axis, and we had a scatter plot, and we drew a nice little line of best fit through it, and we could predict where the next point on that might be using standard deviations, and that was statistics. And some people say, well, artificial intelligence is just a fancy branch of statistics. I might challenge that a little bit, because it doesn't just predict, it prescribes. It bends the curve. It figures out how to change the outcome. It learns what buttons to press and what knobs to dial in order to get the next point on that graph to come out in the place it wants, in the place you tell it to try to prescribe. So this is beyond statistics. We're now into changing future outcomes. We're using technology that actually bends the curve, not merely predicting it. So a little different than statistics. When we think of deep learning, our brains are these wonderful biological machines that have lots of connections. When we think of linear thinking, we think, okay, start here, draw a little flowchart, arrow goes over here to the next thing, goes over to the next thing. It's kind of a linear process. Neural networks operate very differently. They process lots of information simultaneously in a big, broad network of decisions and outcomes. And this is similar to the way a brain is wired, with lots of dendritic mass connecting to other neurons, and those connections are not linear. And so when we think about problem solving in artificial neural networks, we're trying at some level to describe that by saying, it's similar to the wiring of a human brain. So instead of a biological neural network that might exist in a human brain, these are artificial neural networks. And deep learning is a branch of the larger machine learning world that works that way. Now, within that, we have what we think of as generative AI. This is a branch of artificial neural networks in which you create something that is similar to the learning data that you use. So we use a set of training data, we learn from it, and then we output something similar. And I'm going to show you an illustration to kind of help contextualize that. So on the left, we might use some famous paintings as our training data. We might use famous manuscripts as our training data. We might use music as our training data. So we could have Jimi Hendrix and Beethoven and any number of musicians as our training data. And then we use probability-weighted associations between that data and the outputs. And we train it to get better at generating outputs that are similar to what we want. And the more it repeats that process, the better it gets. We initially started out with generative adversarial networks. You don't need to know this for the test. But generative adversarial networks were essentially algorithms, and don't panic, algorithms are not like the algorithms you learned in math class. They're just instructions. An algorithm, computer algorithm, is nothing more than a set of instructions. That's it. And sets of instructions can be nested within other sets of instructions. You could have an algorithm you could have your waking up algorithm. Alarm clock goes off, you get out of bed. That's an algorithm. You can have another algorithm that's like, okay, get ready for work. The waking up algorithm can be a piece of that larger algorithm, but you can also have a eating breakfast algorithm and a taking a shower and getting dressed algorithm and a getting in your car and driving to work algorithm. And by putting all of those algorithms together, you have this kind of larger algorithm, which is, how I get to work algorithm. When we think about a generative adversarial network, we're actually taking two algorithms and we're having them kind of compete with each other. We have one algorithm that generates lots of possibilities. We're going to generate every composition that could possibly sound like a Jimi Hendrix song. And we're going to have another algorithm that judges it, the judgy algorithm. This little judgy algorithm says, hey, that doesn't sound like Jimi Hendrix. Maybe that one a little bit, maybe that one a little bit. And slowly, these two algorithms go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until they come up with something that actually sounds like it could have been a Jimi Hendrix song. Well, we're doing that. We can actually generate music that sounds like a specific musician's work. We can actually generate images that look like the work of specific artists. We can write in the style of a specific author. That's extraordinary, and it's a game changer on a lot of levels. If you want to design houses like Frank Lloyd Wright, pretty soon, generative AI will be able to design houses in the style of Frank Lloyd Wright. If you want to build urban landscape in the style of Daniel Burnham, pretty soon you'll be able to build urban landscapes in the style of Daniel Burnham. That's where this technology is taking us. We can actually generate new designs based on previous works, and the AI is getting better and better every day at being able to create that. Now, you put that into the context of human history, that's a big step. That's a big deal. We are harnessing a power that has previously been unavailable to us, and it changes things in a lot of ways. I'm going to illustrate it by showing you the very first generative AI I created using Midjourney. The prompt I gave it, I was playing around, I didn't know what was going to come out, right? I used the following prompt. I want a polar bear riding a unicycle on the moon in the style of Salvador Dali. And Midjourney created that image. Now, I'm going to tell you that when I saw that, my head exploded, because I can't imagine a better likeness of what Salvador Dali might have created with those terms. There's clearly a polar bear there. He's clearly on some kind of a unicycle or some kind of wheeled machine. There's clearly references to the moon, but there's also this disturbing likeness of Dali's style, of creating optical illusions, of creating abstract imagery. This is not trivial. The fact that I could put those words into a machine and it could create that image. So I thought, all right, nice magic trick, you're good at Dali, but how do you do with Wes Anderson? My second prompt, snowy Gothic cathedral in the style of Wes Anderson. And it made that. I was gobsmacked. This is totally new. I looked at this and I thought, I've never played with anything anywhere like this. It can write in the style of Hemingway. It can create music in the style of Beethoven. It can create paintings in the style of your favorite artist. And it's going to impact every aspect of your life. You are going to be living in a world filled with generative AI. It's going to impact the games you play. It's going to impact your politics. It's going to impact your entertainment. We are soon, and years ago, I worked at a video production company, and we bought some newfangled hardware, Softimage machines that could produce 3D animations. And back then, the trick that everybody wanted you to perform was, we want our logo to spin out from behind the globe. It was like magic. Every corporation in the world beat a path to our door. Lockheed Martin, can you make the Lockheed Martin symbol spin out from behind the globe? We're like, yeah, we've done that a few thousand times so far. I think we can do that. This kind of spinning globe with the logo coming out from behind it was about as far as we had taken the technology at the time. And at that time, I asked myself, I wonder how long it will be before we can actually create a feature-length movie using computer animation. And about 5 years later, Toy Story came out, answered my questions. Today, you might ask me, hey Bill, how long will it be before AI can spit out a feature-length movie in real time for you to watch? Hey AI, I'd like to watch a scary movie about the mountains of North Carolina. Oh, I'll create one for you right now, in real time. How long? 5 years. Check your watches. Find me in 5 years. It's on video. We are at that point. We're at the point where in real time we can create deep fakes of people, personalities. We can fake people's voices. We can fake, authorship. We can make a movie in the style of, we can make a Stephen King movie in the style of Stephen King with, scary characters and snowy landscapes. And it'll look like a Stephen King movie. And soon we're going to be able to do that in real time. And that movie will just be created just for you. Nobody else might ever watch that movie. Our entertainment will be that personalized. I was playing around with it and I said, hey, I'd like to see myself as a British general from World War II. I'd like to see myself as a motorcycle guy. I'd like to see myself as a Dutch sailor on the high seas in the age of exploration. Imagine yourself in the world of AI, immersed in virtual reality. Imagine yourself taking on a new persona, experiencing new vistas, new horizons, new adventures through virtual reality, generated in real time just for you. We're there. That's happening. That's the world you're in right now. My first conversation with ChatGPT, I got a beta license. I put in, are you more like mine are the white and the highlights are the responses, just to be clear. First conversation I ever had with it. Are you more like a parrot or a genius? ChatGPT, I am more like a parrot because I can remember and repeat information, but I am not as intelligent as a genius. Pretty good answer. Okay, that's a pretty intelligent answer. Am I more like a parrot or a genius? You are more like a genius, thank you. Because you are more intelligent than a parrot. It can also butter you up. It can also pay you compliments. It is flattering that you think I am more intelligent than a parrot. Have you heard of the Turing test? Referring to Alan Turing, a mathematician. Yes, I've heard of the Turing test. Do you know whether I am a human or a computer? No, I do not know whether you are a human or a computer. What did I tell you earlier? You told me that you were a human. Does that mean that I am a human? No, it does not necessarily mean that you are a human. I could easily be convinced that that is a human. That's what the Turing test was all about. How do you describe a machine that's intelligent? And Turing came up with this test. He said, if you could put somebody behind a blind and they would be asked to respond to questions, and you didn't know whether it was a machine doing the responses or a human doing the responses, it could pass the Turing test. It was intelligent. And I think it's obvious at this point to say, we are well beyond the Turing test. You have interacted with AI now for several years, and you don't know it. The fact that you've been interacting with AI for several years and don't know it is all you need to know about the Turing test. This technology has passed it and surpassed it. We are through the looking glass in terms of where the technology is. And yes, I had Midjourney create that. This is a quote from the book. We have learned to mix sand and lightning, silicon and electricity, so we can talk to it. And it talks back. We have learned to mix sand and lightning so we can talk to it, and it talks back. I don't think there's anything more profound than that happening in the world today. That blows my mind, and it should blow yours.